Hello everyone, these are my thoughts on The Rainbow Goblins by Masayoshi Takanaka. He is a Japanese jazz fusion city pop pioneer from the 70s and 80s that has really made a lot of instrumental based songs that just sound really powerful. Some have become very popular. My favorite album of his so far is Brazilian Skies, because it just sounds so summery, so bright, so joyous, and it is a very enjoyable listen. And so this is the next installment from his discography that I have listened to. Obviously, it's the next one in the 1981 year. I believe this is the last album from 1981, which I'm very excited to get on with and go into 1982, of course. This album is very different though. It is not like his previous work. I feel like his previous work is literally just like he sticks to a theme, a certain style, and he creates songs from the certain scene that he's working with, whether it's Brazilian funk or it's kind of like surf rock influences on Seychelles. Whereas on this one, it's more conceptual. It's based off of an actual storybook by, I'm saying this off the top of my head here, El Rico. And it is a kind of orchestral instrumental backing to the story, to that famous children's story called The Rainbow Goblins. Now, before we start talking about the music on this album and how the songs laid out on this track list and everything, I think it's important that we talk about the narrative and what the story is about. So the story of The Rainbow Goblins, as a summary, is basically about these goblins that go and feed on the colors of the rainbow, each goblin being a color named after a color of the rainbow. There's a red goblin, there's a green goblin, there's an indigo goblin, so on and so forth. And essentially, they would go feast on these rainbow's colors and move on to the next. They hear about this mystical valley called the Valley of the Rainbows, and they want to go there, and they go on this big quest to get to the Valley of the Rainbows. Once they get there, they sleep in a cave overnight, and they start scheming and planning to eat, the big rainbow that lives there. And the roots of the flowers that live in the Valley of the Rainbows listen to the schemes of the goblins, and obviously warn the rainbow of the schemes of the goblins. Eventually, what ends up happening is the flowers, obviously using the advice of the roots that heard the schemes, they kind of hijack this plan that the goblins had. The lassos that the goblins were using to catch the rainbows dropped, and the goblins got tangled up in those lassos, and the flowers sucked in the colors of the rainbow and drowned the goblins in those colors. And from this point onwards, the rainbow decided, you know what, I need to be really careful. I need to make sure that this never happens again. So what the rainbow does is the rainbow goes and removes either ends of itself so that it never touches the ground again. It's important to mention that the story, this narrative that's being portrayed in this album and in the children's book, I feel like for me the messaging behind it is definitely to cherish the beauty of nature, to cherish the land, the color, the birds, everything that's around, because there are greedy people or greedy parties that will try to ruin that. Even now we see that with land being taken up for buildings, deforestation, for resources and things like that. So you do experience a lot of parties taking nature for granted, and so this album is really portraying that you should take care of nature. It is beautiful, and it isn't going to last if we don't actually actively try to stop that. By the way, what a place for me to be reviewing the Rainbow Goblins. I mean, just look. Gorgeous. So it's a very nice narrative, it's a very nice story, very good children's book to read. And I will say, like, if you actually read the book with the illustrations, or if you can find online the illustrations for each section of the story, it is actually some really, really good artwork, some really beautiful illustration on there. And I actually would recommend going and reading the story first before listening to this album. I didn't do that, but I'd recommend you guys doing that before you listen to this for sure. I think the reason why I say that is because the illustrations kind of provide it provides like a mental backdrop to each section of each song. You know, I went into this album just kind of listening to the songs and just soaking in how the songs sound before I went into the story and really delved in to the story, because I didn't know what to expect. I never really go and research the albums before I listen to them. I listen to them first and then do more research and break them down after. And so I didn't do that the first time, but after I have, it really has changed my perspective on how I listen to the album. I already pictured something beautiful, especially from the album cover, but I really have a visual for every single section of the song now, or of the songs now. And it really does work. Now we can start talking about the songs themselves. This is the part where we can talk about the track list. The track list is not so long. It's not an extensive song number. I think it's maybe 13, 14 songs. But because some songs do run, to the 6-minute mark, it does span an hour in length. So it is a lengthy listen, but not necessarily a lengthy track list. Before I talk about the songs on this track list, I'll give you a bit of a rundown on how the album sounds. It really does sound like a soundtrack to a cartoon or a movie, like a Disney animated movie or something. Prologue starts off the track list, and it starts off with this really grand, orchestral, beautiful piece that is really well composed together. All the melodies and the instruments really work well with each other, and it really paints the scene. It feels like there's a sunrise that's dawning over a land, and in this instance I'm assuming the Valley of the Rainbows. It's like the opening to a film, it's like introducing the world that he's about to paint and talk about in this story of his. It has a melody that is links to the melody on the final track, which we'll talk about later on, and I really like that as well, the fact that there are these overarching melodies that kind of play throughout the album, and I think that's really cool. It links everything together quite well. And then we start off with Once Upon a Song. It has Masayoshi playing the guitar, and so just going, I'm assuming, on this improvised solo over this nice orchestral backdrop. It's very summery, very sunny, very colorful. It's after the sunrise, the sun is beaming over this Valley of the Rainbows. I can imagine the colorful birds flying in the sky, all of these flowers and all of this nature. It does really paint a nice picture, and the solo is really, really good. The song starts off, just kind of tepid. It starts a little bit thin at the beginning, but it really does blossom into a very strong track towards the end. And just overall, it does take a little bit to get into, but once it's in there and once it really kicks in, it is a very, very, very strong song, honestly. Just wish it kicked in a little bit quicker. And there are other songs that follow this similar kind of vibe, where it is literally just Masayoshi absolutely killing it on the guitar. The Sunset Valley is a song where it's kind of similar. It's an orchestral backdrop, it's got that guitar solo again, but it really is a very fun listen. It's really summery, really bright, really colorful. It's a little bit slower, obviously, than Once Upon a Song, but it feels like I'm on a beach, like I'm near the sea or something. It just has this almost, I don't know, flamenco vibe to it, which I don't know if that's what the aim was, but it really does sound really cool. The Moonrose is another guitar laced song, but again, on this one, the guitars are fantastic, but he is going crazy on this song. I'm learning guitar right now. I can't even fathom being able to play what he's doing on this song. He's just absolutely killing it. He's riffing all over the place, and it still comes across really well. It doesn't sound like he's doing too much or anything. It is a very, very impressive song, this one. And yeah, it's very strong. It is quite long, but it's still an enjoyable listen. I think Soon, the next track, is probably my favorite song on the album, or one of my favorite songs on the album, because of how all-rounded and well-rounded the song is. Because not only do you have, you know, this great guitar being played and these really nice instruments acting as a backdrop to that, but the song is just really well orchestrated and really well composed. Like, it seems like all of these songs are obviously very intricately composed, but in this song, the structure of where the song goes, how it progresses, the little break in between, it really comes together into this really well composed, really strong song. Really like this one. I think it's one of my favorites. I don't necessarily think the guitars are doing as much as they were on the Moon Rose on this one, but I think it really is a lot more cohesive from start to finish, where I feel like the Moon Rose, he's just going off. Yeah, he's just going crazy. I think on this song, he's more trying to be a little bit more cohesive from the start to the finish and just create a well-composed track. Now, of course, we have these orchestral backdrop with guitar-laced songs and these really like summery vibes. But then you have like a song like Seven Goblins, which is in that first part of the album, and it's like this like very experimental jazzy kind of tune. It sounds like something that is influenced by Frank Zappa, or something like Frank Zappa would make. You have this repetitive goblin vocal sample that's just being repeated again and again in the background. And yeah, it's a very crazy, wild track. But I think it really does work. I think it fits in within the vibe of the album. It doesn't like stand out or anything in terms of, in a bad way. Yeah, it really comes together as this like really well structured, really well performed, impressive jazz fusion song. I really like it. Now, the next part in the story starts off with Magical Nightlight. It introduces them, you know, being taken away in their slumber into that wonderful dream of theirs, and it leads into Rainbow Paradise, which is supposed to be a song portraying that dream. I think up until the first minute 30, that first, you know, minute and a half right there, it is quite a rigid, thin start to the song. For Once Upon a Song, I think it was still quite smooth sounding, even though it was a little bit of a thin start. It did quite, you know, still sounded quite good. Whereas on this song, it sounds thin, but it's like it's almost static and very rigid in its composition at the beginning. Like, the melody isn't that sweet or summery in the first bit, but I say that it breaks into something that is so crazy and beautiful and just, yeah, very dreamlike after that minute and a half, 2 minutes, where these, like, I think it's like a saxophone comes in, and it really takes the song to another level. The melody shifts a bit, and it really changes the song from something that I would have probably not come back to a song that I was like, whoa, this is fantastic, you know what I mean? And when the saxophones come in alongside these violins, it sounds just so bright, so colorful, so summery. You know, this is really an album, even though it came out in December at the time, but according to Wiki, it sounds like such a summer album. It sounds like a very colorful an album you should be listening to outside, enjoying the sunshine. That's the kind of album it gives off. The song leads into the next track, Thunderstorm, which is a story, the part of the story where the goblins are woken up by this loud thunderstorm, but then are excited by the fact that, you know, thunderstorms happen to bring the largest rainbows, and so they started dancing under the thunderstorm and celebrating. And this song, whilst I can understand the concept behind it, it's very electric, it's very, you know, it sounds a little bit more energetic, something like the backing of an old school 80s arena rock song or something. It does kind of stick out like a sore thumb on this track list. I don't think it fits into the overall theme of the track list that smoothly. I understand the concept behind it. The song's all right. I don't think it does much special on this track list. It doesn't really bring anything unique to the track list, but it's it's all right. It's not bad, but I do feel like if this was not there, the overall flow and the vibe of the album would have been a lot better. Rising Arch is an almost ambient track. It doesn't have like a drum backing. It's a very soothing, kind of like a xylophone type sound that's like gently flowing throughout the song. The different kind of instruments that appear throughout the song are really, really nice. Yeah, it's a very nice, slow, ambient, atmospheric track. Again, I think it kind of reminds me of the Sunrise vibe that the beginning gave off, but instead of it coming with like this grand lore, it instead comes with like this daunting feeling, this idea that, you know, the goblins are coming, you know. Yeah, it's a really nice song to listen to. I do think the song goes a bit long. It is like, we're talking 4.5 minutes, almost 5 minutes in length, so it is quite a long song. I think it might have even gone past 5 minutes from what I remember, but yeah, it takes quite a bit of time. You get the gist of the song really like about 3 minutes in. There is some nice little violin that peers through towards the end of the song, but yeah, it is quite a lengthy ambient song. But again, if you like ambient music, if you like atmospheric vibes, that kind of, you know, something that sets the tone in the background, this could be a song that you enjoy, but don't expect anything too dramatic from it or anything. And then, of course, that leads to the next track, which is Just Chuckle. And this is the song where the goblins get tangled up in their lassos and drowned in the colors of the rainbow by the flowers. And I'm not gonna lie, this is definitely my least favorite song on the album, for sure. You have such a dramatic, pivotal moment in the story, and the song just sounds so, I don't know, it doesn't sound that interesting. The instrumental isn't doing anything too crazy. There are some nice little like saxophone or trumpet with that, you know, wild drum, that Zappa style instrumental that kicks in a little bit, but again, it's very stop and start. The melody isn't really that strong. The xylophone sounds nice. The vocals are a little bit just whatever. I don't know, it's just a song that really doesn't scratch any kind of itch for me. It just comes and goes. But I say that They Come In With Rainbow Was Reborn, and that song brings back that orchestral vibe, that beautiful sound that we saw at the beginning of the album. The instrumental's really strong, the composition's really nice, really sweet, and again, I get that colorful allure that I wanted from this whole album, you know. A much more slower instrumental, this kind of nice smooth drum pattern, the guitars playing this really nice melody, the violins become really, really strong in this song. The guitar really intertwines well with the violins, and yeah, it's just like a really passionate, smooth, you know, again, very bright, summery song. It's not quite as like energetic or at the forefront as some other songs, but that doesn't take away from what this is. This is a lot more laid back and a lot more smooth, and I really enjoy this one. Plume Bird is another one of those like the jazz fusion songs, like Zappa sounding, that kind of Zappa, King Crimson sounding vibe. And yeah, these very fast drum passages with the trumpets come in at several sections of the song. The guitars come in and out throughout the song really, really well. The violin passages that play in between. So it's like, the way that it operates is that you have like these really nice jazzy parts, and then after the jazzy section, you get this blossoming violin orchestral piece with like this nice guitar that's like stringing in the background. It sounds like a victory song. It sounds like, you know, the flowers and the plants and the birds, they're all celebrating by shining like this color into the land that we've been listening to for this whole time. And it sounds like a really good track. Now, You Can Never Come to This, of course, is a song that captures that final part of the story where the rainbow can no longer touches the ground. You can never go see the ends of the rainbow anymore because of the story of the goblins. This powerful guitar track, it's beautiful. It sounds epic. It sounds like the ending to like I don't know, like a fight or something. It's just so grand, luscious. It's amazing. So this is an amazing song, and it actually, like, the guitar melody it's a retrace of the melody that was used in Prologue, as I mentioned earlier. The guitar melody on this song is fantastic, and it goes into like this crazy solo in the middle of the song that actually spans until near the end, if not the end of the track. And it is an insane solo. It sounds incredible. It sounds majestic. It's an epic outro, and there is a bittersweet tone to it. It's not like as beautiful and colorful and bright as some tracks on this album, but it's not as like atmospheric and you know, ambient as some tracks on this. It's like a very melancholic / huge kind of outro. It's very hard to describe the vibe on this, but once you listen to it, you get what I'm talking about. It is very crazy. And that brings us to the end of the track list. So it is a strong track list. There are some very powerful tracks on here. I'm feeling a B+ on this one. I think this is a solid B+ album. There are some really good tracks on this. I love the concept. I love the ideas and the themes on this album, and I really do enjoy how much it does capture the magic, the color, the beauty of the actual story. Of course, there are a couple tracks that do stand out sorely for me, those being Thunderstorm and Just Chuckle, and then there are a couple tracks that do take a little bit to get going, and they don't use their runtime efficiently, and so for that reason, you know, it does bring the track list down a little bit. But you know, it still is a solid album. Had they used that runtime a little bit more efficiently, definitely could have been even higher than an 8. It genuinely is a really good listen, and it does capture, you know, this album wouldn't have done the story justice if it didn't capture the beauty and the color and the magic of the book, and it does do that here. It does portray the magic and the color and the brightness, the summariness of the book and its illustrations really well. And I think the narration what intertwines with the album really well as well. Doesn't sound awkward at all. But yeah, of course, that's just me. You know, I enjoyed it. I really liked it. But of course, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. This is us done for 1981, so on to 1982. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reviewing some albums from then. Please listen to this album. Let me know if you enjoyed it or not. Join me on the journey. I'll try my very best to review as much of 1982 as I can. And with that said, I'll see you then. All right. Thanks for watching as always. Bye.